Today we will recap a dystopian drama film called The Giver. Be ready for spoilers ahead. After the war, they started over. They built a society based on true equality. Rules were the building blocks of this new world. Rules like, use precise language, wear designed clothing, take morning injections and never lie were taught to everyone from a young age. In this new community, differences weren't allowed. There was no popular, no fame, no losers or even winners, and in doing so, all conflict among them was eliminated. All jobs were made equal, and none was more important than the other. The jobs were selected for the citizens according to their individual abilities and talents, but also feelings like fear, envy, hate or even pain were reduced to mere words and nothing more. Even color was eliminated from their sight, making everything appear black and white. Infants were carefully checked after being born. They were weighed and the heavier and healthier ones were given to their assigned families, while the sickly ones were released to elsewhere. Children were not raised by their birth parents, rather, they were handed over to assigned family units to raise them. Things like love, hate, sex and memory were stripped from the people in this community, and in doing so a perfect utopia was created. Jonas, the main protagonist of the film, is riding his bicycle when he is joined by his two friends Usher and Fiona. This was their last day together as they were going to graduate and be assigned their new roles by the elders. The two seemed excited, but Jonas felt scared, a feeling that no one was supposed to have. Jonas always felt different. He saw things differently than others. Sometimes Jonas would notice how beautiful Fiona's smile was, and sometimes he would stare at her as her hair seemed to glow red. He did not understand what he felt, but he was in love. He never said anything, as he did not want to be different. The day of graduation finally came, and all the citizens of the community gathered in the city hall. All the people were sitting orderly in their snow-white attires. The chief elder appeared in front of them and the ceremony started. The elderly members of the community walked to the front as the crowd clapped for them. It was their time to be released to elsewhere, as they had served their time, and were now ready to hand over their responsibilities to the younger people. The graduates also walked to the front where they were to receive their new roles, and one by one, their names are called and they are given new roles according to their abilities. Usher was called to the front. He is given the role of being a drone pilot due to his outgoing personality, but when Jonas' turn came, he was skipped. Jonas became clearly confused and looked around as other people got their new jobs and left. Fiona's turn came. She was called and given the role of being a caregiver due to her ability to handle kids. After all the graduates had been called and left, Jonas was left standing there, alone and confused. He looked around as he thought a mistake was made. The chief elders appeared again and asks him to step forward. It turns out, Jonas was truly special. He was observed to possess all the attributes, so instead of being assigned a role, he was selected for something more special and more important. All jobs may have been equal, but his was more important. He was warned that his new position involved pain, a feeling that none of them knew. He had been selected as the next receiver of memories. The next day, Jonas is given 5 new instructions. 1. He is to report directly to the giver of memories for his training. 2. He is exempted from all rules concerning rudeness and he is allowed to ask any question. 3. Except for his daily injections, he is exempted from any other kind of medication. 4. He is not allowed to discuss his training with anyone ever. And 5. He is allowed to lie. As per the instructions, Jonas rides his bike and goes to the dwelling place of the giver right at the edge of the community. When he walks inside, he finds the giver waiting for him and ready to start his lessons. The entire place is a massive library filled with all kinds of books. As the receiver of memories, Jonas' new job was to receive all the memories of the past world even before the community. When there was more, he would use this knowledge to provide wisdom and advice the elders on matters they themselves cannot handle. The giver tells him to bring a chair and sit in front of him. He rolled his sleeves and pulled the chair even closer. The giver stretches his arms forward and places them on top of Jonas's, and when he touched him, Jonas is transported to a memory of a person walking on a snowy day. He finds a sledge and sat on it. He then pushed himself and started rolling down a slope as his face is filled with genuine joy and happiness. At the bottom of the slope, he saw a cabin with people inside, producing the most beautiful sound he had ever heard. When Jonas comes back to normal, he is mesmerized by what he saw. He had never seen any of these things before. The sledge, the snow and even the beautiful sound called singing. He could not understand why this information was kept from people as it seemed very harmless. Jonas wanted to see more, but the giver refused. That night, he was in a very good mood, but he could not say anything to anyone including his family. At the same time, his family unit received a new infant to raise, a child by the name of Gabriel. When Jonas looked into the child's face, he felt something special and had an instant connection with it. The next day, he was shown a bee which stung him, and for the first time, Jonas felt a small amount of pain, but the giver wanted to show him more. He stretched his arms forward and held Jonas, transporting him to a memory of a boat in the ocean during sunset. It was the most beautiful thing he had ever seen. The sun glowed red and the light reflected on the surface of the water, producing the most beautiful and the most relaxing sight he had ever seen. And when he came back, he was seeing things very differently. The apples on the table changed color to red, just like Fiona's hair. Jonas could not see any other color, but he saw red. He is told that color was taken away to create sameness and bring everybody to an equal playing field. When he met with Fiona, Jonas was left speechless as the color made her even more beautiful. He was even willing to bend the rules to try and impress her. He tried to show her what he was taught, but it did not work. Usher found them and took them to the top of the stadium to show them what he was learning. There, Jonas saw his chance. He told them to pick a tray and place them on the middle of the staircase and sit on it, but Usher refused and walked away. As for Fiona, she was more than happy to do it. When they pushed, they started sliding down the slope in the same manner Jonas had done on the snow. Fiona laughed and screamed with joy. When they reached at the bottom, Fiona was so happy that he almost embraced Jonas, but they are quickly warned as physical touch was not allowed to people outside the family unit. One day, as they were collecting some books from the library, a piece of paper slipped and fell in front of Jonas. It was a map entailing the details of their community and the boundaries of their lands. The boundaries were built to keep everything inside and hide from the outside world. The giver quickly takes the map and hides it inside a drawer. He then takes Jonas downstairs where they find a piano. The lesson of the day was music, and when the giver started to play, Jonas was taken aback. The most beautiful and amazing sounds came from this gigantic box. Music was a way meant to express someone's emotions, which the mandatory daily injections was taking away. Emotions are very deep and primal and alter how people think and act, hence why the founders had to get rid of them for easier control of people. And when the giver held Jonas' hands, he is transported to a memory of a colorful Italian wedding. People bubbling with emotion sang and danced to this beautiful ceremony. Everyone around was dancing and singing and seemed very happy. Jonas became very confused. He could not understand why people would want to get rid of something so good and joyful. The giver was summoned by the chief elder. She had noticed that Jonas had changed. He had been seen several times trying to show his teachings to Fiona, and he even tried to teach his little sister how to dance. The chief elder was concerned as something tragic had happened to the last receiver and she did not want a repeat of the occurrence. She tried to question Jonas, but he dismissed her allegations and left. But before he walked out of the door, unlike usual, Jonas does not take the daily morning injections. Days went on and Jonas is introduced to more and more memories, but up to this point, he was only shown the positive side of the world. He was shown the adventures and music concerts. He saw the different religions and the different races of people with different cultures. And using these memories, he is trained to use the past experiences to make decisions that would impact and shape the future. He was shown the joy of childbirth in a real family. The more he experienced, the more he wanted. He was shown different species of animals which were not present in their community, but the giver wanted to show him something different. He was warned as this memory was not as colorful and joyful as the others. The bad side of freedom and choice to mankind. He is taken to a memory of a group of greedy men poaching and killing an elephant in order to sell their tusks for money. Jonas could not believe it, such cruelty to an innocent animal. When he came back, the pain was too much, but the giver was there to offer support. That night, Jonas laid on his bed feeling sad, but when he looked outside his window, he saw the beautiful Fiona in her room. He started to hallucinate that the two were in the Italian wedding kissing and having fun, and just like that, my boy got his first wet dream. At this point, Jonas had completely stopped taking the daily morning injections, and his world had completely changed and it was full of color. When he met with Fiona, he became very shy. His feelings to her were now very clear. He could only stare at this magnificent creature, unable to say anything. He also frequently visited baby Gabriel to comfort him whenever he cried. He showed him memories of different things and it seemed to relax and make the baby happy. One day, as Jonas was reporting for his lessons, he found the giver on the floor having a seizure. He quickly ran down the stairs, but when he held the giver's hand, he is transported to a memory of a battlefield. Bombs and bullets were flying all around. He witnessed one of the soldier getting shot and killed in front of him. Angrily, the soldier shoots back and killed a woman on the trees. And when Jonas came back from the memory, understandably, this was too much for him. He had witnessed the pain of a soldier losing a friend in front of him. Jonas had also experienced the guilt and the feeling of taking someone's life. This kind of pain was too much for him and he was not prepared for it. He was simply not strong enough for this kind of event. The giver tried to offer support, but it bore no fruits, and Jonas quickly took his bag and walked away. Jonas walked through the field lost in his world due to the memories of the memories he just saw. His friend Usher tried to stop him, but Jonas just walked past him without acknowledging his presence. Fiona saw him from a distance and could tell he was troubled. She ran and interjected him to find out what was wrong. He could not take it anymore. He needed someone he could communicate with and share what he was experiencing, so he told Fiona to start skipping her morning injections in order for her to develop some feelings, for her to at least understand what he was about to tell her. He told her to prick her finger and apply the blood on an apple, then place the apple over the injector, and by doing this, no one would realize what she was doing. Fiona was concerned for him, so she quickly accepted. Even though she could not understand it, she also deeply cared and loved him. When Jonas returned for his lessons, the giver was ready to tell him everything. He was ready to tell him what happened to the receiver before him. Her name was Rosemary, and just like Jonas, she learned quickly and wanted to be shown more and more. At first the giver resisted, but he succumbed to pressure and showed her something she was not prepared to see. He showed her a memory of a mother whose child was taken from her. And unfortunately, the feeling of the loss was too much for her and she was unable to handle it, so she went to the chief elder and asked to be released to elsewhere. Jonas is also shown what released to elsewhere truly meant. It meant killing. Everybody taken to be released to elsewhere was being injected with a poison and killed. This included the sickly infants and the elderly who retired, but the people doing this did not have the concept of death, so they did not know what they were doing. Jonas could not help it but blame the receivers. How could they witness mass murder of innocent people and do nothing about it? When Jonas went to meet with Fiona, she had stopped taking the daily injections, so she felt different. Her emotions had developed and she could not help herself but to think about him. Jonas held her arms and moved her closer to him. He then leaned in and kissed Fiona on her lips, and the confused Fiona was left speechless. That night when Jonas goes to his family unit, baby Gabriel was missing. He had failed his test of maturity and was sent back to the nurturing center to be released to elsewhere. Jonas could not believe it. The poor child who he had come to love so much was set to be killed. So that night when curfew hours reached and everyone was asleep, Jonas quickly packed his backpack and left. When he walked outside, his friend Usher saw him and confronted him, trying to stop him. He tried to push past him, but Usher was adamant and refused to give way. Angrily, Jonas punched him on the face and left him on the ground. He rode his bike to the giver's house as he wanted his help. Jonas had made up his mind. He could no longer sit back and watch his people live like prisoners anymore, so he wanted to take the child and leave past the boundary of memory and release them. He wanted all of the knowledge rightfully returned to the people. The giver, who was feeling very guilty for keeping the truth from the people, agreed to help him. The two studied the map and came up with a solution. Jonas would go and break the barrier, but the giver would stay behind to guide the people when all the memories came back. On the other side, Usher had reported the issue to the chief elder. They pulled up CCTV footage and located him in the giver's place. The chief elder appeared in the giver's chambers and Jonas quickly hid. She pretended not to know he was there and asked the giver if he had seen him, which he quickly said no. She quickly called the guards and instructed them to follow and apprehend Jonas using any means possible. The giver gave Jonas one last trip down memory line to help guide him on the journey to come, and give him courage to move forward with his plans. Jonas rode his bike to the nurturing center where the baby was. There, he found Fiona and asked for her help. He wanted to be shown where the baby was. Fiona was quite happy to help him. He took him downstairs where the infants set to be released to elsewhere were. At the same time, the guards also converge at his location. Jonas begged Fiona to come with him, but it was just not possible. Instead, he promised to come back for her after he had taken the baby to safety and broken the boundary of memories. Before he left, Fiona pulled him back and kissed him. She then took a baby carrier and started running in the opposite direction to attract the guard and give Jonas a chance to escape. He took this chance to run outside where he finds the guards' motorbikes. He took one and quickly rode off trying to escape. As Jonas was riding away, he is joined by two guards chasing after him from behind. He is almost cornered, but he diverted into the road leading to the giver's place. But instead of stopping at the door, Jonas jumped from the edge and disappeared into the mist. He then landed safely on the other side and continued going, and just like that the guards lost track of him. He rode the bike through mountains and deserts, under the scorching sun, but he continued. He went further and further, but eventually the bike ran out of juice, so he abandoned it and continued on foot. Very quickly, the giver and Fiona were arrested. They were placed inside transparent cells awaiting their sentencing to get released to elsewhere. Usher is called to the side by the chief elder and given a very important job. He was told to fly his drone and find Jonas before he reached too far, and after he finds him he should finish him. As Jonas was walking towards the boundary on foot, Usher's drone located him and flew closer. Jonas tried to plead with Usher but he was having none of it. Jonas tried to run but he is picked up by the drone. He is flown even further and released into a waterfall. Usher had actually listened and helped him. Knowing very well that Jonas had survived, he reported a lie to the chief elder. Jonas came out of the river unharmed and the baby was also okay. Though he was very tired, Jonas walked on as he knew Fiona and the giver would be punished for helping him. The only hope they had was for him to cross the boundaries of memories. He came across mountains but he had no choice but to climb them through the thick snow cover. He was tired, hungry and scared but he just pushed on. When he finally reached the top, he saw nothing. There was no boundary of memory. He felt like giving up, and unfortunately, Jonas could not do it anymore. He was too weak so he lost consciousness and fell down. On the other hand, Fiona was set to be released to elsewhere. She was taken out of her cell to a room where she is to be injected with a poison and killed. Jonas was woken up by the cries of baby Gabriel. When he looked around, he saw something familiar. He saw a sledge. He walked up to it and sat on it. He then pushed himself and started gliding down the hill as he had seen in the memories. The giver tried to beg the elders to stop with the procedure but even for them, they did not understand the concept of death. The needle full of poison was directed towards her hand but before she was injected, Jonas broke through the boundary and the transparent barrier was torn apart. Slowly, things turned from black and white and have actual colors. Everyone including the elders were amazed as memories returned to the people, and just like that, Fiona's life is spared. The community turned from an empty black and white prison to a colorful haven. Please like and subscribe for more.